This is the final era of the 4 eras that we've covered thus far regarding marketing and the marketing discipline. So in this time frame, there is a shift to where marketing and the field of marketing is fragmented. One of the main fragments of marketing during this time frame to 1980 to the present is marketing strategy is one of the fragments, and marketing strategy in and of itself becomes institutionalized. It becomes the norm, and marketing also becomes institutionalized. All of the core concepts that we know as marketing are really set as the standard of what pretty much everybody uses today. So one of the key things that we will be talking about throughout the rest of this course is these different types of marketing strategies. So one is market segmentation, another is market orientation, relationship marketing, and brand equity. Those are 4 key marketing strategies that really helped institutionalize marketing strategy within the business disciplines as a whole. However, there are some more general strategies that come from management that we're going to talk about in this lecture that help institutionalize marketing strategy. Those are industry-based, resource-based, competence-based, and knowledge-based strategies. So we're going to jump in and talk about each of these, but first we're going to cover marketing and how it was institutionalized and marketing strategy. So let's jump in. So marketing had several definitions over time. I've kind of alluded to this in era 2, where the AMA before it was AMA had some definitions of marketing. And these definitions were really focused on the functional approach to marketing. And the main idea at that time was getting the product from manufacturer to consumer. That was the main idea at that time, and that lasted for quite a long time. However, in 1985, AMA released a definition that focused on marketing as a process, and they also still focused on many of these functional aspects of marketing. So pricing, promotion, and the main thing here that we can remember is exchange was the key thing. We were creating exchanges, and so that was pretty common in our thought process and how we conceptualize marketing. However, in 2004, they revisited the definition of marketing, and they went back to marketing as more of an organizational function. And this kind of was a step back because if you remember, back in the 1950s in era 3, they talk about marketing being this idea that was more of an organization-wide phenomenon. So here we go back to more of the functional idea of marketing. So with this, the key idea here is we start talking about creating, communicating, and delivering, and the focus was on value. So exchange really isn't the main thing that is talked about in the definition. However, exchange underlies this because we're having to deliver some type of value to customers and managing customer relationships. So relationship marketing is also a key thing that is brought into this 2004 definition. In 2007, they changed the definition again, and with that, marketing they defined as an activity. And with this, they also talked about how marketing has institutions and processes, and this occurs through creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings, not only for what we think of as like B2C customers, but we have B2B clients, other marketers, and then also how marketing can impact society at large. And finally, 2013 had more of a refined definition of this, which they took out conducted by organizations and individuals, and defined marketing really as not only an activity, but it is a set of institutions and processes. So this gives marketing a more of a broad perspective and how it can impact organizations and what the idea of marketing is. So the 2007 definition, this is just a quick recap, they acknowledge that there's activities, institutions, and processes of marketing. They recognize that marketing not only what you might think of as the communication side, whereas like you have advertising and promotions, the communicating is what a lot of people think about as marketing. Well, we have to create market offerings, which would be like the production process. We also have to distribute those market offerings, and then we have to exchange those offerings between the manufacturer and the consumer, or between businesses. So marketing has a much larger role than just the promotional side, which you may be more familiar with. So the other key thing was that marketing has an ethical responsibility, not only to customers, to clients, but also to partners and society. So this is how the AMA definition really has now taken the previous perspectives of both academics and what marketing actually is to be a more comprehensive and concise definition. So with that, it's really important for us to understand how the scope of marketing can be. And this was developed by Professor Hunt here at Texas Tech University. The three dichotomies model is micro, macro, positive, normative, and profit, nonprofit. So we can have micro, where we as marketers want to understand individual consumers and individual firms, or we could look at the macro perspective, which would be more of like an industry perspective, like an aggregate of an industry. Positive is what is or exists. That is what actually happens. So one question a marketer might ask is, how do firms set prices? How do firms set advertising budgets? Normative is where we could look at what one ought to have or what one ought to do. And that is more of how should firms set prices? How should firms set advertising budgets? And this has more of an ethical ought and a rational. So with this, the ethical side is looking at, okay, should firms set prices in a way that could be harmful to consumers? And this might be like if there's a monopoly in the market, like we have very few cell phone providers, and they want to increase the cost of their services and charge you higher prices. They could do that, but ethically they are bound to ask themselves, how should we set our prices where consumers don't rebel against us? So with that, I will also mention that we also have the profit and not for profit. So that is really the thing we're all pretty familiar with. Our profit businesses, Starbucks, McDonald's, all those operate for profit, but we also have nonprofits like St. Jude's and other organizations that are not-for-profit organizations, and they require marketing also. So now we get to what is marketing strategy. We've covered what is marketing, and marketing strategy really incorporates the prior definitions of marketing. The 2007 definition really is present here if we think about the creation, communication, and or delivery of products. We also have that value aspect to customers, and we have the exchanges that we've talked about. The key thing here from the strategy video that I had you watch and the strategic decision making is we have an integrated pattern of decisions, so there's consistency there. We have crucial choices, and we have the idea that we have to achieve specific objectives, and that's for obtaining superior financial performance. So there's an idea of competition involved in marketing strategy. So this gives you a great understanding of the broad nature of marketing strategy, or it could be very specific. So we could have a marketing strategy just for the delivery of products, just for the creation of products, and just for the communication of products. So for creation, we might have a new product development strategy. For communication, we might have an advertising strategy, a branding strategy. In delivery of products, we might have a distribution strategy that we could talk about. So those are some things that we are going to cover in this class in the next few chapters. So be looking out for those chapters, because this is, like I said, the big overview perspective, but we dive in each of these different types of strategies in more detail in future lectures. So in our textbook, we have a few different approaches to strategy. And these are much more general than marketing strategy in particular. So in our textbook, we have where we go from the broad general strategies to the more specific marketing strategies in chapter 1. So with this, we talk about this idea that there are strategies based on products and markets. And with that, we have market penetration, market development, product development, and diversification. You will need to look at this and understand it very well by the end of this class. In the new product development chapter, we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail and see how this applies to developing new products and how firms might use different strategies for the way that they develop new products. So we have each of these 4 different types of strategies that are based on products and markets. We also have strategies that are based on competitive advantage. And if you remember from Era 3 and Era 2, Roe Alderson talked about how corporations and firms, they should develop strategies based on competitive advantage. So what is competitive advantage? If you remember from my previous lectures, it's the ability to outperform competitors in providing something that the market values. And this is located in your textbook. You can find that. But the key thing here, which I've mentioned in several of our previous lectures, is you're trying to outperform or beat the competition in some way. And we talked about this in sports. We also talked about this in military and how you might be able to relate to this, especially if you competed in any type of activity in high school or college. So there's a few different types of strategies that are talked about in the textbook. One is industry-based strategy, and we also have strategies that are based on value and value creation. With this, the key thing here is these strategies seek to provide value to customers, and this would be based off like the product, the price, or the service. So when talking about these business strategies, we're going to talk about the first one, industry-based. And the idea here is that to achieve competitive advantage, one should choose industries or modify their structures, then select one of 3 generic strategies: cost leadership, differentiation, or focus, and manage the activities in their value chain. So what do each of these 3 generic strategies mean? Well, cost leadership is really the no frills. And with this would be like Walmart. They try to achieve the best cost compared to their competitors. So they're charging the lowest price and providing that to customers because they're trying to be the cost leader. They don't want to charge the highest price because they're offering really a no frills type of service. Now with differentiation, we're considering unique, desirable products and services. So with this, we're trying to differentiate ourselves from the competition in some way, and a lot of companies do this. Can you think of any examples of what companies might try to go more of a differentiation strategy. Well, one that I can think of that really focuses on this is like small boutiques. They really try to differentiate themselves from the competition, but also we can see that like iPhone, Apple, they look at trying to differentiate themselves with like their iPhone, their Mac from the PC. And if you ever have talked to somebody who, like, say you're a Mac user and another person is a PC, both of you are very set in what you prefer, and that's because Apple and PC, they have worked to differentiate their products in such a way that customers prefer one versus the other. And then we also have focus, and that's offering a specialized service in a niche market. So one of the things that I think about with focus is that this would be like if you've ever seen like Freshly or one of those very niche products on like Instagram or Facebook advertising to you. I see Freshly because it's like prepared meals that that you can get that are kind of like gourmet in a way. And I always find it very unique that they advertise to me because I've never ordered one, but that is a very niche market and a very specialized service with that. There's only certain people who are going to buy into getting something pre-made delivered to their house and eating that. So if you're one of the ones who do it, that's great. But there's a very specialized market for that type of service and product. We also have the resource-based strategy. And resource-based strategy, you're probably familiar with us talking about resources. And these resources are valuable, rare, imperfectly mobile, immutable, and non-substitutable. So valuable, if a resource really isn't valuable to a firm, then it's not going to really make that much of a difference, right? So a resource has to be valuable in some way, and the resource is valuable in the sense that it helps a firm exploit opportunities or be able to defend against threats in the environment. So a threat might be like COVID-19 disruption, or it could be like the threat of how when all these restaurants started introducing their chicken sandwich, Chick-fil-A had to have some type of resource to defend itself against these threats. A resource also has to be rare, so it can't be acquired by everyone, or else what would be the point of having that resource? And really, if it's not rare, then it doesn't give a company any competitive edge over any other company. And then finally, it has to be non-substitutable, inimitable, or imperfectly mobile. And with this, it has to be hard to imitate or substitute. So like there are many resources on the market that, like software, there's different companies that you may be able to go to that offer a similar product or service that you could consider a resource. So a lot of times these resources are developed in-house. Now, the next one is confidence-based strategy, and there's a really great video on core competencies in this Blackboard section. So you can watch that video. The idea here is that you identify, seek, develop, reinforce, maintain, and leverage distinctive competences. And with this is distinctive competences is how a company is distinct from other companies. So these competences are what makes a company who they are and how they can leverage those and maintain those to maintain a competitive edge or gain a competitive edge over their competitors. So a capability has tangible and intangible resources. So with competencies, these are kind of like a higher order level of resources. It would not just be one individual resources, but a combination of those resources that fit together. And in the video, they talk about that one that I have in this section is they talk about core capabilities, and those capabilities are that differentiate a company strategically. And there's also core rigidities, which are the flip side. And a company can have capabilities that do create problems. And this can cause inertia for the organization where they can't keep moving forward and they actually are kind of at a standstill and really stagnant. So these core competencies, core capabilities are really important for an organization. Now, the last one that we're going to talk about is knowledge-based strategy. And knowledge-based strategy is the idea that a firm has a storehouse of knowledge, and they have to use that knowledge to guide innovation and guide their organization. So they compete based off of the knowledge of their employees. And you can see how this is really important, because if you have someone that has been at your firm for 15 or 20 years, they have a lot of knowledge about not only your firm, but also the industry that you're in, the products that the firm provides, the services that the firm provides. And so their storehouse of knowledge can really create a competitive edge, because if you lost that employee to your main competitor, they may be able to really hurt you as a company. So knowledge-based strategy is really important. And so the basic overview that I'm going to give, this gives our major concepts of Chapter 1. We have the marketing concept, which we referred to in Era 3, and I discussed further by giving you those different definitions of marketing. And we also had this idea of how marketing fits into the overall strategic plan of the organization. So the strategic plan needs marketing research, which is Chapter 2, and what we're going to be talking about in our next lecture. And the marketing plan and implementing that needs feedback of information and research. So this is a nice figure that helps us understand that the strategic plan, marketing fits into the strategic plan, and implementing the marketing plan and strategic plan requires marketing research. So that's it for the 4 eras. If you have any questions on the 4 eras or Chapter 1, please feel free to email me at kt.manus@ttu.edu. Thanks. Bye-bye.